Three shocking cases, three brutal murders, a wife who stabbed her husband 193 times, a police instructor who burned his wife alive, and a father who gunned down his wife in cold blood right before their divorce. These are some of the most disturbing domestic murder cases you'll ever hear. From bloody rage to calculated cover-ups, get ready because this courtroom compilation is absolutely insane.
On January 13, 2003, the town of Houston, Texas was rocked by a horrific crime that later became known as the Susan Wright case, often referred to as the Blue-Eyed Butcher. Susan, an outwardly ordinary woman, and her husband Jeff Wright appeared to be a content couple with two young children, leading what seemed like a comfortable life. However, beneath the surface, their relationship was far from harmonious. According to Susan, she endured years of physical abuse inflicted by Jeff, and on that fateful night in January, she reached her breaking point. Susan meticulously devised an intricate plan to entice Jeff into a vulnerable state where she could tie him to their bed, exploiting the anticipation of intimacy. Successfully luring him, she secured him to the bed using neckties and a bathrobe. Once Jeff was helpless and defenseless, Susan emerged with a knife, unleashing a storm of uncontrollable fury as she repeatedly stabbed him. In a fit of rage, she delivered a staggering 193 stab wounds during the brutal assault, even resorting to burning his genitals with hot candle wax. The intensity of the stabbing was so extreme that a knife tip broke off inside Wright's skull.
What did you find, sir?
Tip of the knife.
Where?
Top of the skull. A downward motion like this.
Shockingly, 7 of the stab wounds were inflicted upon Jeff's groin area.
Started up in this area, went down between the scrotum and the upper thigh.
After committing the heinous act, Susan attempted to remove any trace of her actions by cleaning the crime scene and burying Jeff in the backyard. However, a few days later, the family dog was digging up Jeff's body. Susan knew she wouldn't be able to keep the secret much longer, so she called her attorney and confessed to everything, and she surrendered herself to the authorities. Claiming self-defense, she asserted that she had reached her breaking point after enduring years of Jeff's abuse.
He would grab the back of my head and bash it against the dashboard.
At her trial, the prosecution presented a different narrative. They alleged that Susan's motives extended far beyond self-defense, pointing to financial gain as her driving force. Specifically, they asserted that Susan was motivated by Jeff Wright's $200,000 life insurance policy. The trial took an unexpected turn when prosecutor Kelly Siegler, during her closing argument, opted to stage a shocking reenactment of the murder. Siegler physically demonstrated the events leading up to the fatal incident, straddling a male colleague in the courtroom as a stand-in for the victim.
And if I'm sitting on top of you and I'm holding a knife, move your hands up like you're trying to get me. That's all you can move?
Ultimately, the jury sided with the prosecution and found Susan Wright guilty of murder. She received a 25-year prison sentence.
Assessor punishment at confinement in the Institutional Division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 25 years.
However, in 2009, a judge ruled that Wright had not received proper legal counsel during the sentencing phase, leading to a new hearing. As a result of this hearing, her sentence was reduced by 5 years, resulting in a 20-year prison term. In July 2020, Susan was granted parole after serving 16 years. As part of her release, she has to check in until 2024. She will be under the Super Intensive Supervision Program. After her release, when a reporter tried to have a conversation with her, she urged them to stop and leave her alone.
Have a heart, please.
Certainly. Is there anything that y'all would want to say?
No, ma'am. I would just like privacy. Please respect that. I'm sure that y'all can understand, but don't do this to my family. Even if you do it to me, don't do this to them, please.
Can you imagine stabbing someone 193 times? That's not just murder. That's pure rage. Susan Wright turned her husband into a human pincushion, even burning his genitals with candle wax. The prosecution called her the Blue-Eyed Butcher, and her shocking courtroom reenactment became legendary. But that's just the beginning of this video. Next up is an even darker story involving a cop who thought he could get away with murder.
Thank you, ma'am.
In 2011, Brett Seacat, a former deputy and police academy instructor, committed a heinous act.
What's the problem? Calm down. There's a fire.
His relationship with his wife, Vashti, had deteriorated, leading to Vashti filing for divorce. Brett responded with hostility, making threats and vowing to confront her. He went so far as to promise that he would do everything within his power to prevent her from gaining custody of their 2 sons. However, on April 29th, he pleaded with Vashti to allow him to spend one final night in the house, bidding farewell to their boys before his scheduled departure on April 30th. Tragedy struck on the morning of April 30th, 2011. At 3:57 a.m., Brett Seacat called 911 to report a raging fire engulfing their home. Emergency responders arrived to find the Seacat residence consumed by flames. Brett claimed to have escaped rescuing their 2 sons, but was unable to save Vashti. During police interviews, Brett recounted a story of a planned fire and Vashti's alleged suicide. He portrayed his wife as troubled and mentally unstable, insisting that she intentionally set the fire and took her own life. However, investigators began to doubt Brett's account. A neighbor reported hearing a gunshot at 3:15 a.m., a significant discrepancy that cast doubt on Brett's narrative. Moreover, the findings of the medical examiner contradicted his claims, as there was no evidence of smoke or carbon monoxide in Vashti's lungs or blood. It became evident that Vashti had lost her life before the fire engulfed the house. Brett Seacat was arrested on May 14, 2011, and faced charges of murder, arson, and child endangerment. In the subsequent trial in 2013, lead prosecutor Amy Hanley meticulously dismantled Brett's version of events. She presented inconsistencies at the crime scene and the testimony of Vashti's family, who attested to her positive outlook on life and her fears of Brett's threats. The defense attempted to tarnish Vashti's reputation, focusing on the narrative of depression while asserting the existence of an alleged affair.
She's the one who told me that she had slept with the vice president. She had had several affairs with her supervisor. The last one that she had ironclad confirmed was in 2008. But she had alluded to being responsible for an affair with him as late as March and April.
March and April of what year?
2011.
On June 11, 2013, after 6 hours of deliberation, the jury found Brett Seacat guilty on all charges.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you reached a verdict?
Yes, we have your.
We, the jury, find the defendant Brett T. Seacat guilty of murder in the first degree.
Upon hearing the verdict, Brett completely lost his composure and directed a tirade at Judge Larry Solomon during his sentencing hearing. He accused the judge of orchestrating the conviction and declared that he would face the consequences of his actions in the case.
This day belongs to you, Judge Solomon. This is your day. This is the day you get to take your place in front of the cameras and pass sentence on a man you worked so hard to convict. A man you know was innocent, but a man you had to help convict so you could get this day. Your day. So go ahead and collect your 30 pieces of silver, Judge Solomon. Go ahead and sell custody of my little boys to Vashti's family. Go ahead and pass sentence you think will land you a spot on the Kansas Supreme Court. Go ahead and pass the sentence that guarantees your spot in hell. Just like Amy Hanley, Jeff Newsom, and those 12 jurors, you're going to hell for what you've done in this case. Your corrupt decisions will bring an appeal. The evidence will be presented and I will be freed. And with that, I'll step aside and let you have your day. After all, you purchased it with your soul, so you've earned it.
Judge Solomon remained unaffected by Brett's outburst and sentenced him to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole for murder. Additionally, he received 5 years for aggravated arson and 7 months for 2 counts of child endangerment.
Wow. Brett Seacat goes from police academy instructor to cold-blooded killer. He shoots his wife, sets the house on fire, then tries to blame it on her suicide. The man even had the nerve to scream at the judge during sentencing, calling him corrupt and saying he sold his soul. The level of delusion is off the charts. But hold on. We still have one more heartbreaking case that will leave you
Child
speechless.
endangerment.
I was 14. It's not fair that I have to graduate and none of my parents are there.
On April 1st, 2019, a heartbreaking incident unfolded when Brian Ramos, a 38-year-old man with a prior history of assault charges, unleashed a barrage of bullets on his wife just a day before their divorce was scheduled to be finalized. The fatal encounter occurred at the intersection of Jeevers and Fair Avenue on the southeast side of San Antonio, as the couple engaged in a heated argument that spiraled out of control. Josephine Ramos, a devoted pharmacy technician and mother of 3, desperately tried to escape the escalating conflict by exiting the vehicle, but was tragically met with a hail of bullets that struck her multiple times in the back. She died from her injuries at the scene, leaving behind a shattered family. Attempting to flee the scene, Brian Ramos was swiftly apprehended by law enforcement. He was arrested after a police officer contacted him on his mobile phone, and he willingly agreed to be taken into custody at a residence on Rigsby Avenue. Following plea negotiations between the prosecutors and defense attorneys, Ramos entered a no-contest plea before Judge Jennifer P. in the 290th District Court. The statements from the couple's children were heartbreaking and filled with anguish. Their daughter, unable to contain her emotions, expressed the profound void left by her mother's death, saying,
You made a bad decision. It's not fair.
She went on, sobbing as she recalled the irreparable harm done by her father's actions and the void left in their lives.
You exist. You're standing right there. My mom is ashes now.
Judge Jennifer P. found Brian Ramos guilty of murder and sentenced him to 35 years in prison and a $2,000 fine at the conclusion of the proceedings. The daughter, still grappling with the pain of her mother's death, further addressed Ramos, stating,
And you can rot in jail, and people can hurt you, and you're gonna finally know what that feels like. How you always used to tell me that actions have consequences, well now here you go.
Josephine's sister, Monique, was also present during the hearing via video link, and she had some emotional words for Ramos.
Brian, I have so much hate in my heart for you. But all I can hear is my sister say, Monique, forgive him.
While the sentencing provides a degree of closure to this devastating chapter, it cannot erase the immense loss endured by the grieving family. As they work to rebuild their lives, they hope that justice will serve as an example of the consequences of such violent actions. What are your thoughts on these criminals and their violent actions? Do you believe they should ever be released from prison? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And bye for now.
From Susan Wright's savage 193 stab murder to Brett Seacat's calculated house fire cover-up, to Brian Ramos gunning down his wife in front of their children. These 3 cases show the terrifying reality of domestic violence when it turns deadly. All 3 killers received long prison sentences, but their stories continue to haunt the families left behind. If these shocking courtroom cases hit you as hard as they hit us, smash that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which case disturbed you the most? Should any of them ever be released? And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more raw, real courtroom breakdowns like this. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.